The Vandy boys get that number one seed. They're hosting a regional. They're in line to host a super regional. What more can they do to get ready for an Omaha run? They're thinking Omaha, so am I.
You are Locked On Vandy, your daily podcast on the Vanderbilt Commodores, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome into the Locked On Vandy podcast on the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Corey Burton. Thanks for making us part of your day. Thanks for making us your first listen. Now, I hope you guys had a great Memorial Day, but the brackets are out, the field's set, and Vandy has the number one overall seed. You win the SEC, you get some love. But what are the benefits of them having the number one seed? What does it mean for their chances to make a run at the College World Series? What's their path? If they win the region, who will they host at the Hawk for super regionals? We're going to break it all down here in just a few minutes. But first of all, I want to thank you guys for making Locked On Vandy your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube as a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So this is I don't want to say this is unfamiliar territory, because it is very much familiar territory for this program, especially for Tim Corbin. But they earned the number one overall seed, which I think the biggest story here is that they earned the number one overall seed after pretty much their season being buried midway through the conference slate. You get to the Oklahoma series, you lose 2 out of 3 there. You get shellacked on Friday, you get shellacked on Saturday of that series. And there had already been kind of some grumblings about Tim Corbin and he's lost his fastball and all that stuff. But, I mean, those grumblings got a little bit louder at that point and had a lot of people – well, I don't want to say a lot of people, but I don't know. It's hard to tell just how many, but it had people grumbling over, like, okay, is it time for Tim Corbin to hang it up? Has this thing passed him by? Is it, what are we doing here? Do we need to get a new manager? Is this program in need of a reset? Based on last year and getting basically shelled in the regional after making the 18th straight regional, getting shelled by High Point was kind of a low point, pun intended. And so, I guess it's okay. It's right to ask those questions because of just how Vanderbilt wasn't able to adjust and all that stuff. But I think where it lost me was, okay, you can question this. Okay, it's fine to say, hey, has Tim Corbin lost a step? Is he, is this team like, are they ever going to regain their form that they had back before COVID? And, I think with the landscape of college athletics changing, I think you have to give these teams time to adjust to it, right? Because it was an adjustment period for everybody at some point as far as the way the transfer portal goes, NIL, all that stuff. Like, I think this is the landscape is so new, and it trickled down from football that, like, I just don't think Tim Corbin was ready to adjust to that. And it took him a minute. Like last year, he had gotten some transfers. He didn't know how to really integrate them in. Like, I think it was all new to him for the most part. I mean, you get transfers all the time, but like not as frequently and not as openly as it is now with the way the portal is. So I think there was an adjustment period. Last year you saw it was probably the worst of it, where this team just looked lost at times last year. And then that kind of carried over into this year. Well, I think what ended up happening was you needed to just figure yourself out, right? And you needed that time to adjust. So why not, why not be patient? So, and I'm going to get more into that a little bit, but this kind of leads me up to this point is, why do we feel like they have a really good chance at making the dance? Well, here's the thing. Here's their keys to success. Here's why I think Vandy has a legitimate shot. I think Omaha's on their mind, and rightfully so. They are playing like the number one overall seed. They have gelled, all right? And the trust and all that stuff that I talked about in the last few episodes that I've talked about this, the confidence, the trust, all of that. This is a complete team. and they go to war for each other. They go to bat for each other, pun intended. And they just it's probably the closest in camaraderie that I've seen in a baseball team in quite some time. And that is championship makeup. But ultimately, it's going to come down in postseason play to pitching. And if you have elite pitching, especially in the bullpen, I think you have a really good chance. And the guy that's pictured there to the left, if you have a lead in the 8th inning, he's going to come in and slam the door. And I know he made things a little bit interesting against Ole Miss, but I think if he can come in and slam the door, you're going to be in great shape there. And I think one of the things Tim Corbin does a phenomenal job of, and I get into this trap as well. I question it, like why aren't your starters going? Why aren't you throwing them longer innings? Why aren't you trying to get them and save your bullpen? But I think Tim Corbin has these guys fresh, and I question it. I don't know why I question it. But I think it's something worth knowing and trying to figure out why he does the way he does things. And it's fascinating more so than anything. I'm not questioning it as in what is Tim Corbin doing? He's an idiot. I'm questioning it because I'm truly fascinated, honestly, how he manages his pitching staff, because conventional wisdom says, hey, you got 3 aces there. Let them roll as long as you can. Save your bullpen for later, all that good stuff. But he does a phenomenal job of managing this pitching staff and managing the innings and managing the appearances and all that stuff. And he has a plan and it's organized. So I think this year he finally has a staff that he really feels great about. I think there were some holes in the bullpen, a lot of holes in the bullpen last year. You had some starters that were very inconsistent. I don't think he's had as complete of a staff since their last College World Series run. And so this is the most loaded pitching staff that he's had since then. And they're behaving very much like that 2019 team. So this is a very, very good thing here. Elite pitching is what gets it done, right? You know the saying in golf, drive for show, putt for dough. This is very much equivalent to that. Drive for show, that's the home runs. Putt for dough, that's pitching, right? You got to get guys out. And Vanderbilt does a phenomenal job of doing that, and it helps that Austin Nye, the strikeout guy, has emerged as somebody that's a viable option. So versatility, I think the versatility in their game approach is going to really put them over the edge. I mean, this team can adapt to whatever style is needed to compete. I think throughout the season you saw that if they needed a bunch of power, they needed to go homer for homer with somebody, they did. And thus that was more so their offense picking up their pitching when their pitching was struggling a little bit, because guess what? They're humans and they struggle, and pitching is a very hard thing to do. And they're going to struggle at times, and you need to be able to hit. And they did. There's times where, playing small ball, you get in a pitcher's duel and 2 runs could possibly do it because your pitcher is that much lights out. They can do that. They can play the small ball approach. They can hit the ball where the defense isn't. They can play situational baseball. They can do those things. They have the baseball IQ, or they developed the baseball IQ to be able to do that. And throughout the season, they developed the chemistry to be able to do that and to be able to get guys over and be able to know, okay, well, Jonathan Vastein's on base. I know I don't have to hit a home run here. I just hit this thing down the right field line. He's got 2 bases easily, maybe 3. RJ Austin, same. These guys are incredible. And to further that point, they have a strong lineup with great balance. And what I mean by great balance is hitting and power. What I mean by hitting is guys that understand how to use the whole field, how to drive the ball into gaps, how to how to understand. If pitch is on the outside corner, I'm just going to strike that thing down the left field or right field line, depending on what side of the plate they are, or understanding situationally, how can I get this guy up in his pitch count? How can I try to make this guy throw as many pitches to me as possible? Just understanding situational baseball and being able to hit in that situational baseball. And then, of course, you had your power guys like Braden, Holcomb, Riley Nelson, Brody Johnston that could mash. They can just straight mash. They can get up there and just, hey, you need a homer? Here you go. And they just knock it out of the park. So this is, those are the things that I feel are the reasons why they have that number 1 seed, first of all, and getting that going is the reason why I think they have a really legitimate chance at repeating what happened in 2019. And what happened, they made a run to Omaha and just won the whole freaking thing, right? Just as they said in Major League. So I'm a big fan of it. I think they have a legit shot. I really do. And are they ready to make the run? Yeah, for sure. Are they being too humble, though? Are they being too humble about being number one? Well, that's debatable. We'll talk about that next. Well, speaking of being humble, have you ever looked at your bank account and been humbled and trying to figure out where did all that money go? Well, between dining out, online shopping, just general entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, and they give you full visibility and control over your finances. Just think about how awesome that is. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app, though; it's a complete financial command center, and you can track all your accounts, investments, spending all in one place. So you stop just managing your money and you start building wealth. So when I started using Monarch, I realized how much I was spending on takeout. Man, now a budget, this is awesome because now a budget's smarter and I save more. And instead of juggling multiple apps going, my banking app, my investments app, my whatever app, my stock app, my whatever apps, it's all there. It's all right there. I just open up Monarch and it's right there. And when I'm talking with my wife, or if you're talking with your partner, managing money is smoother than ever. You can track shared and personal accounts. You can set goals. You can stay on the same page without all the stress, or with minimal stress, because anytime you're dealing with money, there's going to be some stress. But Monarch takes a lot of that off your plate. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONCollege for half off your first year. All right, thanks for making Locked On Vandy your first listen each and every day. If you need a second listen, Locked On SEC with Chris Gordy is a phenomenal place to start. He's with 8 teams in hosting regionals. I think Locked On SEC is a good place to start right after you get done with me. So Chris Gordy does a phenomenal job. We squad up every Thursday. So what more can you wait for, right? So here's the thing. Here's what I'm thinking about, right? Because, they have a legitimate shot at running the table, but you also have to realize, why is it a big deal, right? What does it mean to be the number one seed? It's cool, to say you're the number one overall seed, but what does it really mean? Because I think this Vandy team might be taking it too nonchalantly. They might be a little bit more humble. Here's what Tim Corbin had to say about it. And the rest of the team, when you ask them, they feel the same way. He said, it's fine. We have no control of that. We just control how we play on the field, and we take care of business on the field. Then other people will align us however they want to. I don't care about that. It's great that we're on top, or that we're in the top 8, so we can play at home. So I do care about that. But in terms of where they pair us, whether it's a 1, 4, or 5, has no bearing. Now it's just a matter of us playing better baseball than Wright State. So I asked the question, are they being too humble about this? Which I think that's a very loaded question. I think there's a fine line between humble, confident, and feeling good about where you're at. And, they're saying all the right things in the media, honestly. I think they're handling it well. I think deep down inside, they're pretty stoked. And I think this is, confidence sake. I think they're trying to tamp down the cockiness, but ultimately, I think this team, if it was a less mature team, I would say, yes, they're handling it perfectly. Tamp it down, make it, just kind of make it not really a big deal. But this team's emotionally mature enough. They're secure enough in who they are as a team. It just doesn't matter, man. They can get excited about it. They can feel good about it, and they can use that as a feather in their cap, honestly. And I think it's something they can be proud of and say, hey, we're the number one team. We're going to play like it. And they felt, it doesn't change, that statement, the fact that they're ranked number 1 overall just puts a number beside what they've already believed since the players only meeting. They've probably believed this since preseason practice, but honestly, it just took them a minute to gel. But, I think it's a pretty big deal for a lot of reasons. And they're never going to say that. They're never going to say how stoked they are, so I'll say it for them. It's a pretty big freaking deal, man. And, in this day and age of recruiting, transfer portal, NIL, all that stuff, it's important, right? And they're going to continue to downplay it, and that's fine. That's totally fine. That's probably the right thing to do. But if they can't say it, I'll say it for them. It's a pretty big freaking deal, man. And I love it. I love every second of it. And so here's what it means, just kind of in a nutshell. Why don't you, in the comments, why don't you leave me, what do you think? What do you think it means to be number one overall, right? The first thing is that it shows in baseball sometimes it takes time to gel as a team, especially one with a lot of transfers. And so patience is key. What I said at the top of the show, I'm going to reiterate that. See this guy that's pictured right here, Tim Corbin? People are ready to run him off. Oh, he lost his fastball. Oh, this, oh, that. He doesn't have it anymore. Is it time to move on from the Tim Corbin era? All those questions were being asked. And, at one point it was kind of legit, maybe. It's like, oh, has he lost his fastball a little bit? Can he get it back? Well, he got it back all right. But I think it shows that patience is key. And they were patient, just like they were patient with Clark Lee. He's showing an upward trend, 7-6 in a bowl game, and he's showing upward trajectory there with the football program. Mark Byington, I don't think there was really ever any doubt with Mark Byington. He made the NCAA tournament his first season, but he is showing an upward trajectory. And, there was one point in the season where it's like, okay, we got a long way to go. And then, of course, they turned it around. They made a run. So it's like patience, right? You got to have time to gel. You got to have time for these transfers to kind of get it integrated into the system and just kind of going. So it shows that patience pays off, and it shows that, hey, maybe Tim Corbin does know what he's doing, right? Despite what people may think, despite what people may have forgotten about Tim Corbin, is that he knows what the heck he's doing. And the fact that he got that last year's team to a regional, knowing what we know now, and I think we just kind of forgot what made him so great the last couple of years. But that team going to the regionals last year was kind of impressive. This team getting the number one overall seed from where they were at the midpoint, not only pretty impressive, it is really freaking impressive. So patience, man. It's just patience. It's just letting them do what they do. Letting the pitching staff gel, letting the hitters gel, letting this team kind of figure it out on their own. They had to have a players-only meeting to figure out, hey, guys, chill the blank out. We're just going to do us. We're going to have fun with it. We're going to be ourselves. And you know what? It's the best method. And Tim Corbin's like, yeah, just be yourself. But make sure when you're being yourself, here's a few things to notice, right? And he's going to inject some of his coaching into that too. So it's a formula that's absolutely worked. And in this day and age of transfers and all that stuff, patience is key. And of course, managing the personalities, because there's a lot of different personalities on this team, on any team, especially when you get a bunch of transfer portal guys. You don't have a lot of time for these guys to exist together. And there you go. But for recruiting purposes, it opens a lot of doors. Like I said, this being number one opens a lot of possibilities. I think it makes you, I think people had forgotten that Vanderbilt was a destination for college baseball. I think this reminds people, hey, Vanderbilt's a pretty good baseball program. And when I say pretty good, I facetiously mean they're a great baseball program overall. They've had a couple bumps along the road, but what teams haven't, right? And with this new age of recruiting and portal and stuff like that, Tim Corbin's a little more open to it now. I think he's more comfortable with getting transfers in. So I think you're going to see this kind of take off. And if they can win the College World Series with a bunch of transfers, this could be dangerous, man. This could set off a run for Vanderbilt. And you could see a really dangerous team for the rest of Tim Corbin's tenure whenever he decides to ride off into the sunset and retire. Don't know when that will be, but whenever he does, you're going to look back and go, holy cow, he did this in two different eras. Impressive. All right. And then, of course, home field advantage is always great throughout. I mean, you're showcasing the Hawk. You're getting ready. He said it himself when asked why is their ballpark is big by design. It's to get ready for the College World Series in Omaha, that field is big. To get ready for the Hoover Met, that field is big. They've got to learn how to play in these parks and not rely so heavily on the home run. And that's been freaking brilliant, man. But I'm really excited about this team. I think, like I said, they have the makeup to go on a run here. But what does their path to Omaha look like? Who's standing in the way? We'll talk about it. We'll show you the brackets because they came out next. All right. Thanks for making Locked On Vandy your first listen each and every day. I appreciate you a great deal. Locked On Vandy, at Locked On Vandy on all social media platforms is the place to go for the rest of the show. Now, I'm excited, man. I'm excited about this bracket. I'm excited about how Vandy finished off the season. I'm excited. 8 SEC teams are hosting regionals. That's half of the hosting field. It's insane. And then I think, I don't know the total number that made the regional field, but 8 of them are hosting. So that's half of the league. That's half the SEC hosting half of the spots. And then I think 13 or 14 got into the field. So this is quite impressive. Nashville, of course, hosting as number 1 overall seed. They get Wright State, East Tennessee, and Louisville. So that's going to be a lot of fun. But here's kind of the brackets as they go. I'll start with the ones that aren't Vandy. I'll just run through those real quick. Some notables here. Oklahoma comes into the UNC bracket as the number 2 seed. That's going to be a fun bracket. Oklahoma's a pretty good team. They'll get at least one on somebody. They're going to have to construct their pitching creatively to get Witherspoon as the ace against North Carolina. Eugene doesn't have any SEC teams, but they, Oregon is they're a dangerous team. Florida, they're the number 2 seed in the Coastal Carolina. I think they're going to come out of that one. Auburn, NC State. That's a fun regional, but I think you're getting Auburn, Florida out of that one. And it probably, obviously Auburn will host the super regional if that's the case. Then Tennessee, that's going to, I don't know much about that. I don't know much about the other 3 teams in that one, but that one seems like a fairly easy regional. Arkansas, the number 2 overall seed. It's in the top 4 are all SEC teams, by the way. So I'm thinking it's going to be that's going to be an all SEC super regional there. So go figure. I think, you get LSU, Clemson, you get Kentucky making a regional. Wow. They come in, I think, as a 2 or 3 seed. But they make a regional, and that's quite impressive. The way they finished the season, it wasn't great. They lost in the first round of the SEC tournament. They make the field. Hey, you never know what's going to happen. And then, of course, LSU there. So you get 1, 2, 3, 4, possibly 5 SEC teams making the super regionals out of this little quadrant right here. Now, you go into this side. You get Georgia. I think they're going to come out of that one. I don't know much about these teams. I think Duke's pretty good, but I think Georgia will end up coming out of that one. Ole Miss will come out of that one. Ole Miss showed me something. They can pitch and play defense. They're going to shut things down. So that's another 2 SECs in that super regional. UCLA, they're hosting. I don't really see, unless it's a major upset, I don't know much about these West Coast teams. But I have to think that UCLA is going to be coming out of that one if it goes chalk. And, of course, Texas, I think they're in pretty good shape here. I think they're the number – they're the number 2 overall seed. I think Arkansas was 3. Misread that. Then you got Oregon State, who is in the world of college baseball. They're kind of like the Vandy. They're not great at the other sports, but baseball, when it comes to baseball, they're pretty damn good. Then you got Florida State, who's the same way. They've been in the world of college baseball. They've been freaking legendary. So they're going to be dangerous. And then, of course, Southern Miss with Bama, Miami, and Columbia. Southern Miss obviously hosting, but like Bama and Miami are the bigger programs. You have to think one of those 2 teams are going to come out of that one. And, of course, the Nashville regional. The one that scares me is Louisville because Vandy dropped a midweek against Louisville, but I think pitching wise, I think they're going to plan better for that one. You're not going to get Austin Nye in that game against Louisville. I think you're probably going to get J.D. Thompson, who right now is the ace. And that's going to be an interesting region, too, for Vanderbilt. I think the ballpark plays to their style. I don't know much about Wright State. I don't know much about ETSU, but, of course, in the world of baseball, anything can happen. However, the way Vanderbilt's playing, the confidence that they have, I just don't see any reason Vanderbilt's going to drop any of those games, honestly. They're playing at top form right now, and I just there's a lot of confidence there. And if Vanderbilt won't say it, I will. If Tim Corbin won't say it, or Vastine or Austin or anybody, I'll freaking say it. They're good. They're forced to be reckoned with. They're number one for a reason, because they pitch extremely well. They're really good situationally, and they're adaptable. And so this is this is something that you need to kind of watch out for. But I'm like I said, this road. Here's the downside of it. All right, so this road, I think I'm trying to figure out how these super regionals will factor in. I think the top four goes into this bracket one, and then I think the bottom four go into bracket two, and they all kind of play each other. Is how I understand it. The College World Series, I've always just kind of watched it, but I've never really understood how it goes. I think it's just another group stage there. But you get Vandy versus Alabama. I think Vandy, again, they host, so Alabama, of course, anything can happen, but it's the best of three in that scenario in the super regional. So I think they go well there. So my predictions are this: I think it's going to be Vandy. I think it's going to be Oregon State. I think it's going to be Ole Miss coming from this pair of regionals. I think it's going to be, I want to say, Texas coming from this set of regionals to meet in bracket one of the College World Series. And then I think you're going to get UNC coming out of this one. Then I think you're going to get Auburn coming out of this one. You're going to get Arkansas coming out of this one, and you're going to get, I'm going to say Clemson. I'm going to say you're going to get Clemson. I think Clemson is going to pull the upset on LSU to make up bracket two. I mean, I think, honestly, you look at how all these teams are constructed, I think Vanderbilt can pitch with the best of them. Now, of course, they're prone to having their off days, and these teams can play up by any stretch. But, it's very possible. It's very plausible that Vandy could run the table in the College World Series based on this path. I don't think I see anything that really jumps out at me as to who would be hands down above what Vanderbilt can pull. Now, some of y'all that know the grander scheme of college baseball maybe can tell me. So, if you know a lot about Oregon State, please let me know. I have no clue about Oregon State. I'll be honest with you. Florida State, I know their record wasn't as phenomenal as the other hosts, but what I know about them as a program is they're pretty dang tough, and they flat get after you. And so, tell me about Florida State. Am I wrong picking Oregon State coming out of that super regional, right? Ole Miss and Georgia, Georgia mashes, but they can't. They're middle of the pack towards the bottom in pitching, and you saw where that got them. I mean, they got them a first game exit in the SEC tournament. They couldn't score any runs, and they were going up against an ace. But when you're an elite hitting team, you should be able to hit just about anybody. And they just couldn't get anything going, and they couldn't pitch well enough to keep Oklahoma at bay. So that's one thing that concerns me, and that's one thing that I think these teams, and I will probably investigate it further as we get further down the road in this tournament. But which teams have the elite pitching? Which teams are set up to play in a playoff atmosphere? When things tighten up, you're not always going to hit extremely well. Things tightened up in the SEC championship for Vanderbilt, and what do? They didn't flinch, dude. They hit two bombs. They were relaxed, and their pitching just went to work. And when you have a team that's built like that, that's played like that, it makes for a pretty smooth run through postseason. And if you can stay that calm, and Jonathan Vastine said it's the team that can settle down the best, because there's a lot of adrenaline going, and the team that can kind of settle in and just play baseball, those are the teams that are usually more successful. And he's spot on about that. And I'll leave you guys with that quote. So this is a good road for them to venture down. This is a great path, a great set of circumstances. And I think they're never going to say it. I'll say it. I think this team can do it. Call them a shot. They're going to Omaha. All right. And they're going to make some noise while they're there. Pitching is what gets it done. So that's all I got for you guys today. Also, like I said, thanks for making Locked On Vandy your first listen today and every day. And for your second listen, if you want a little bit of a change up, go check out the Portal Show. Brian Smith has the latest rumors, portal entries, and signings. You can be the most informed fan on rapid changes to the college football landscape. So find the Portal on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. So you can check that one out as well. When it comes time for when you tune your ears towards football again, because I know Vandy baseball is about to make an iconic run. So you guys are probably hyper-focused on that, and rightfully so. But that's going to do it. Thanks for making us your first listen. Like, subscribe, anchor down. Peace.